Hi everyone, my name is Leanne and today I am doing a currently reading video. Now I have wanted to do currently reading videos regularly for quite some time now, but it didn't really suit the way that I film videos. I am one of those people who doesn't tend to film and upload in one day. I am one of those people who will bulk film a lot of videos on a day that I am free to do so, and then stagger their uploads throughout a week or a couple of weeks. So it felt like doing currently reading videos was a little bit pointless because by the time I got around to editing and uploading that video, I would no longer be currently reading those books. But last month I did a challenge to do a video in one take. This was a challenge set by Read by Jess, and I did a currently reading video for that. And I actually found it really liberating to not have to edit that. It's not something that I would like to do with all of my videos, but I thought a nice way to incorporate that would be to do monthly currently reading videos. So that's what I'm going to try and do. My reading habits have changed a little bit recently in that I used to be one of those people who would read like 3 or 4 books like all the time, and then I wouldn't finish any books for ages, and then I would finish loads in one day. My reading habits have changed a little bit recently in that the only time I've really found myself having available to read or feeling in the mood to read are my commutes to and from work, which is about 45 minutes each way. So that's where I've been doing the majority of my reading recently, during the week anyways. And I've only been reading one book at a time when I've done that because I don't want to carry around multiple books or anything. And I found when I'm reading on a commute, I want to be able to jump straight into the same story. But on weekends, I tend to be reading a couple of more shorter books as well as my main read at the moment. So it seems like weekends are the most relevant times to do these videos because I'll have a few books to talk to you about. And the first of those is The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I'm sure everyone's heard of this book. This book is set 15 years after The Handmaid's Tale, and it doesn't follow the main character from that book, Offred. It follows 3 different girls or women who are in some way connected to Gilead in different ways. I don't want to spoil anything about that. I wasn't sure if I wanted to read this book right away because I felt like there was a lot of hype around it, and I felt like I would only be setting myself up for disappointment. But I did cave, and I bought myself a copy. And I'm really glad that I did that because this is it's great. It's just so good. It's so good. I'm halfway through it, and I definitely feel like I want to finish this today because it's such a page turner. I went into central London yesterday, and when I got to my stop on the tube, I didn't want to get off because I just wanted to keep reading this, and I was still reading it when I was on my way up the escalator, which is something that I never do. But I just didn't want to put it down. And last night when I was reading it, I didn't want to put it down. It is paced really well, and when Atwood switches between the 3 different perspectives, she always does it at such a fantastic point in that individual story to take a pause, because you are going back to a story that you find really interesting while simultaneously wanting to race to find out what happened after the last part of the other perspective. It's so good. And I really loved the sense of communal reading that there is around this book. It's a feeling that I've not felt since the last Harry Potter book, where people went to a midnight release and read the book immediately, and so many people are reading it at the same time. It's a communal reading is one of my favorite elements of reading. I think that's why I enjoy following book prizes so much, is because it's great to be able to talk about the same books. And this is also shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize, which I have lots of thoughts about, but I won't go off on that tangent yet. But yeah, really glad that I decided to pick this one up, and I am going to try and finish it tonight. The audiobook that I'm currently listening to is Darling by Rachel Edwards. this is a really interesting book in that it begins when our main character, who is a woman of color, she receives some racial abuse the day after the result of the EU referendum in the UK. And there's a lot of commentary surrounding racism in the aftermath of that referendum. And I think Rachel Edwards has so many really interesting comments to make about that. And I think that's where her writing is at its best. But the plot of this novel follows our main character, Darling, and her relationship with a man named Thomas, who is white, and his daughter is white. His daughter is called Lola, and the book flicks between Darling and Lola's perspectives, and it really shows the tension that there is between these two characters. Darling doesn't really like Lola. Lola doesn't really like Darling. Darling knows that she has to try and make an effort with Lola. Lola is very manipulative towards Darling. But she's also got a lot of stuff going on like below the surface, and there's a lot of dark stuff in her past. And I will put a trigger warning for eating disorders. If you want to read this book, be aware of that. And there's also a lot of stuff in Darling's past that isn't fully fleshed out at this point in the book. I'm like halfway through this one as well. So I think the dynamic between these two characters is fascinating. I think the commentary around racial tensions in the UK it's so well done. And I'm learning so much from it. I'm interested to see whether all of the mysteries are resolved in a satisfying way as I get towards the end of the novel. But yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. I think it's a really great book. And the final one that I'm going to read this evening is Feminine Gospels by Caroline Duffy. I read a couple of poems from this last night, but I realized I was way too tired to fully appreciate them and take them in, so I'm going to read the rest of it tonight. One of my absolute favourite things to do on a cozy evening is getting to bed with a cup of tea and a poetry collection. It's just my favourite thing. But Caroline Duffy is one of the best poets ever, in my opinion. She's the poet that got me into reading and writing poetry. And in this collection, she is essentially reimagining a lot of biblical archetypes, I guess, in, I'm sure, what will be a very quintessential Caroline Duffy way, which is humorous at points, very powerful, masterfully handling language and crafting the most beautiful stanzas there is. But it's one of my she is one of my absolute favorite poets of all time, and I know I'm going to love this one. So yes, definitely going to be getting into bed and reading this one tonight. So they are all the books that I am currently reading. Do leave me a comment down below if you have read any of them, if you have any thoughts on them, particularly the Testaments. Are you someone who has already devoured it, or are you waiting for the hype to die down before you dive into it, or do you just not care at all? Let me know down in the comments. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will talk to you in my next video.